And we are live.
We are. Good thing.
Yeah. Good thing. We don't want to be late for the DJ tonight.
No, and we want to be live and breathing, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to
that
what other
too.
choices there are. Well,
Yeah.
Chris, so good to see you
Yeah, likewise.
once again. This is Road Trip to Fairfax, episode 12.
What?
This is 12 times once a week, Tuesday nights, mostly at 7 p.m., sometimes at 5 p.m., one time at 6 p.m., I think. And we're on the road to Fairfax, ecstatic dance in our imaginations, recreating that beautiful drive that we were taking almost every week for a year together. And just, focusing on dance and us and the drive and the beauty and getting lost in our interpersonal connected world and sharing what we love. So here we are doing that
Couldn't be
again.
better.
Beep, beep.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and do the beep, beep. So we are going to talk about a couple of things, three things today, just to let our riders know. We're going to talk about some of the etiquette of dancing in a virtual space. These Zoom dances that happened once COVID hit when we couldn't be dancing in person. And so these things morphed into online. You dance with your computer or your phone with other people on their computer and their phone. And so those are called virtual or distance dancing. There's lots of different names, and there's quite a few of those that sprouted up, and they're all a little bit different. But we're going to try to cover just some our experiences, like your experience and mine, and what we think works and yeah, that's one topic. Then Chris, we're going to let you roll about your experience this last
Yeah.
weekend. You did a nice road
Oh,
trip
yes.
and took in some of the local LA scene. You're even still down there. So we're eager to hear about that. And to close off, we'll have you giving the sort of the report of, heads up, here's what's happening in the Bay Area, both some virtual tips and, or not tips, but naming what's happening virtually in dancing, and also some live in person living, breathing dances. So that's our agenda for tonight. So we're going to roll. You ready?
Yeah, I am.
All righty.
Very much so.
Okay. So I did like last week a little bit. I thought about this topic a little bit in terms of the virtual dance. And I'm not going to, hopefully, well, actually, I had some really nice feedback from last week. Some people really appreciated how I brought the topics and how I kind of walked us through and so forth. So I'm feeling good about that. One of the things that came up for me really right off was that these virtual dances are all quite individual and different. Has that been your experience also? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
they're a lot like, I mean, the way that I see them is I draw a lot of like analogies between the experience in person and in virtual, and like just with the in-person dance, like there's the general guidelines, and then each one kind of has its own unique flair, anywhere from the venue to the organizer to, the crowd that shows up to the DJs that perform there. It's all very, very, very unique in that sense. And I think that virtual dance kind of takes it to that next level because we're still trying to recreate that virtual dance, recreate that physical dance, but in a virtual world. So we're doing our best, I think, to kind of bridge over and kind of meet those guidelines, but also to kind of be a little bit like loosey goosey with it too.
hmm,
So just because of the technology, like one of the number one things is no cameras, no filming, no pictures in an ecstatic dance space. It's very important to remember that it's a sacred space. And I would say even on Zoom, I wouldn't recommend like holding up the camera and recording anything, at least for personal etiquette. It's not something I'd recommend, but there's compromise with that because it's kind of silly how we're saying no like cameras, but yet the camera's on all of us and we're all, being, kind of filmed.
yeah.
But I mean, if you're swooping the camera by or, not really catching the picture, the trick is to not like catch pictures and post them on social media that people are going to recognize other people. It's just nothing more than just kind of a courtesy thing to do. And I would say that's kind of more of a general thing. But
Yeah, and I don't know that I've even heard that really voiced out loud. It's so interesting. I hadn't even thought of that one myself. It's not in my list of thought of things that I was going to mention. Um, but I feel a shock when I see someone like put a camera, and I can see they have their camera and they're pointing it at the computer screen. Like they are, and I get this little, wait, that's not allowed, because we've come to expect, those of us who've been doing the ecstatic dance for years, that there is really a basic protocol of no videoing. You don't whip out your camera at a dance and just start videoing people. And it is
Yeah.
about the consent and how far and wide those pictures can go without someone wanting themselves splashed all over social media. So that's a kind of a
Right.
common guideline. And I think my experience is I have seen, especially through the ecstatic dance world, more explicit guidelines up front. You go to the venue and you already see guidelines when you walk in the door, or their website says this is like no shoes, no talking, no filming, no drugs or alcohol, or whatever it is that are those kinds of guidelines. And I missed those on the Zoom dances for the most part. It's like people threw up the dance and we're all like in the space, and then wait, do we want this to happen or not? What do we do about these different things? And I think it made me reflect that it's a really good idea, no matter what venue we decide, or what event we decide to host, to think about how we want it to be. What experience do we
Hmm.
want our participants to have? And
Right.
what kind of container that has some guidelines that we can at least start with, that would hopefully create a space where the result we have is what we intended, and there aren't things happening that we're going, oh no, this wasn't supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
And the way I think of that is, okay, so what's my intention, and then what kind of container do I think? Because I can't predict everything. I don't know what might happen, right? But to do that, to think about that and give it thought. And what I would say is, just like you mentioned, each dance that's a live dance tends to kind of get a flavor based on, right,
Yeah.
who's the promoter, or who's the person running it, and what kind of music are they, what do they want. And so they do end up very individual and have their own kind of flavor. And I think that's happened also with the virtual dances.
Yeah.
Like, some are very structured. I go to one that's very controlled in terms of structure. Others are very, very loose. And then, the flavor ends up being, maybe this is more playful, maybe we're more spiritual, and we have, we read poetry, or so I think that's a guidelines I have found help manage people's expectations. So before people just show up and go, this isn't what I wanted, right? Why is it like this? That if an organizer can create something so that before a person actually arrives in the space, they have an idea of what they're going to expect for
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it like calms the nervous system, helps them have at least some structure, and hopefully there's a balance between the structure and the container, which is kind of the familiar, right? Something I know
Hmm.
so I can connect, and the novelty of the freedom of what can happen, right? In the improv and in the moment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of it kind of like, driving on the road, like a road trip, and with signs, I mean, it's not like you see a sign for 55 and you're like, what are you trying to imply, that I'm a speeder? No, it's these general guidelines to help you get to your destination safely. But like for somebody like me that likes to drive, likes to, not drive fast all the time within reason, but have fun behind the wheel without really subjecting anybody to danger.
Yeah.
And I think I can do that, little speedy here and there, but nothing too crazy, and within, safe cues of safety, that I think dance is very similar in that way, that you've got your general direction and your general guidelines of what to do, but yet there's still that freedom to just completely be in this safe space and have fun with it. And that's how I feel
Exactly.
about, with our road trip. And I know you've been in the car before when I've, gunned it or taken a corner and did a little fun. Yeah, just a little bit of fun like that. But there's that sense of liberation that I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable to be behind the wheel and drive the way that I do. But it's because I'm watching the posted speed limits, I'm watching the signs. And yeah, maybe I bend the rules a little bit, but for the most part, I keep it in the lane and I keep it within, a reasonable speed limit.
Well, and there's a difference between driving in India or downtown Mexico City and like we have, you have to pass the test. There are stop signs, there are speed limits, there are roads that go one direction and not, you come into a space that's fairly structured within which you can have, some of your own individuality express itself. But can you imagine the difference when it's complete anarchy and chaos and everybody's doing anything all the time? And, I'd just be like, I don't think so. This feels like really scary. Like, how do you, so,
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and I can speak to that. I've been to a wedding in Delhi, and I didn't drive in Delhi, but I definitely rode, in cars, and it was absolutely terrifying because it's like the lanes, light state they
free
respect,
for
but
all.
it's a free for all. But they all make it work, and and there's constant honking. You're hearing honking everywhere. It's not rude. It's to let people know that you're present and you're there. It's actually a safety and a courtesy thing, and it's like but I see it work. I see it work, and when an entire community or country kind of follows that same sort of culture, it all works out. However, what I will tell you is I did rent a scooter down in Goa, and Goa's on the south. But on the southwestern side of India, and it's a bit of a tropical paradise. I just think of it almost like a Vegas, but fewer Celine shows, where you can do anything you want, get anything you want. But anyway, I rented this moped, and not only do they drive on the opposite side of the road, British colonized, but also too, because I used to ride motorcycles, the grip and hands, they're switched. So what's normally
brake and gas or reverse,
front and gear, but because it's just a scooter, it's no clutch, so it's just front and rear brake. So the front brake is switched with the rear brake, and riding a motorcycle, you put about a quarter of pressure on the front brake and the 75% of the pressure on the rear brake. So they basically tell you, just use this brake only the right brake. So you're on the opposite side of the road using the opposite, hand to brake. Yeah.
Chris, can I just say, it sounds like I'm amazed you survived. You survived that. That seems pretty intense.
There's yaks in the middle of the road. I made friends with these Russians because a different story. But anyway, I made friends with these Russians along the way, and they were wild, and they would come up behind a yak and smack it on the ass to see if it would react. Well, I'm behind them trying to get around this yak. So, oh man, it was
wow.
So anyway, I definitely can
high adventure
driving in India.
High adventure in Goa. Yeah. Goa to Goa, and maybe you'll live through it. If you're lucky. Okay. Back on track a little. Thank you for that. That was fun. Just talking about guidelines, I think I want to just kind of hit that up one more time. Is that, in my experience anyway, is that I start with an idea thinking this is like the rails I want to live in, and then I see what happens, and like, whoa, there's stuff going on that I didn't predict. And so I think guidelines, when they're formed, they start off as kind of a sort of an approximation, because that's all we can do to begin with. And then as we, see what actually happens in the space that we're trying to create a certain intentional outcome, we keep refining. And so refining comes from experience. It's like life, right? You can't just get on the path and go. You have things happen and you go, oh, I need to tweak this and I need to tweak that. And so it's an ongoing process, I think, that, invites adjustment and refinement, and we just keep working with it, right? So that's where to start. Yeah. So there is, when there's a structure in a container, I think people relax a little because they know a little what to expect. And I guess there's one other piece I want to say about that's come up in the dance communities. I don't know how much it applies to virtual and online, but it can, I think, when something happens in your event that is an incident, shall we call it. There's a conflict, or there's something, or people are disagreeing. It's a really good idea to have already in place some kind of conflict resolution or some kind of pathway, some avenue for someone who's, reactive or upset or not getting their needs met to have it addressed. So they're not just hanging out. I mean, you can lose people that way, but it's also just, it's painful and frustrating to have, to want to give feedback to the producer or whatever, or have them see you. And there's, no one says, yeah, here's where you can leave your messages, your feedback, your whatever. And so that's a good thing. In small events, maybe not a big deal, but it's a good thing to think about that. What am I going to do if something kind of happens? Do I have something in place to help that person get through that and feel understood and seen? Yeah. Or both people if it's a conflict. So that's a piece.
Yeah. And that takes skill too.
Yeah.
That kind of conflict resolution, that's,
It's not easy. And I'm a mediator. I've been trained as mediation and actually performed that function for the Oakland Sunday morning dance for a couple years. So it's needed. And there's a lot of people in that dance. So
yeah.
Right on.
I think that's where I was headed with that. I was thinking of just kind of some of the stuff you've talked about before, and just you've done an excellent job, as far as just your thought process.
We've had lots of conversation around that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the point is when I stepped into that, there wasn't such a role. It just wasn't there, and yet things were happening. And so I said, hey, I think mediation or some kind of, avenue for people, it needs to be in place. And I think it was helpful. Yeah. So that's like when you're planning and kind of putting together your event, if you're going to do that. And maybe the expectation of someone who's going to arrive in an event, what they're hoping is there in place. Enough structure, but enough room for freedom. So it's enjoyable, right? And and then you can also pick based on someone's guidelines, what their focus is and whether, do I want that focus or not? So I can choose before I show up, where I want to show up, especially when there's lots of choices, which there are.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought, we could also talk about, this thing came to me was like, what are the sort of the limitations of virtual dances and the advantages of them? Because there's that also, they're different, right? Well, just right off the bat, one of the limitations is mostly everybody's on a screen and there's little squares on the screen. And for the most part, people are tiny. So you are not like in a space where a person shows up as big as they are, right? And that's, some of these dances there's 25 people on a screen and you're, all these little boxes of people. And how do you even see what that other person is doing if you want to? That's a difficult, challenge for a Zoom dance. So there's that. And I think for me, there's also someone who really likes to connect with people and get, you see me, I see you, and the square is this big, how do I show somebody that I want to give them my attention or receive their attention? How do I even make that happen? I can't, you can move close to somebody in a real dance and you can make eye contact, but on the screen, you can't really do either of those things. So that's kind of a limitation. At least it's a challenge that there are some kind of remedies for these things, but that's what presents in the beginning. There's another weird thing that happens, it's been talked about, is when you have people just sitting and looking. You're at a dance and in the squares, people are just like, yo, what are they doing there? They're not dancing. Are they just voyeurs? What is going on with that energy? And I know Pam has addressed that. She'll say, this is Pam who has this psychedelic dance on Monday nights. And if you don't do this, and if you're doing this for a long time, I'm going to remove you or turn off your camera if you're going to be non-engaged. This is one of the ways you can deal with this. And you can ask people to do that if you're running an event, like she does. Please do this. And Zach does another thing. He says, if you're not going to be dancing and engaging, please turn off your camera. And that does a couple things. For one thing, it doesn't leave like an empty square or a staring person. But every time a person turns off a camera, if there's limited real estate for these little Zoom squares, everybody else gets bigger on the screen. So
Yeah.
you know, so so that's a way to be very courteous. I'm leaving and I don't want to, I will leave and then your pictures of everybody else gets bigger. So you can actually see other people better. Yeah. Yeah, and then just the last piece was it's also harder for me. I've noticed when I do connect with someone, how do I like now change my attention without being rude? It's like, how do I go away, right? And so there's that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear what you think in terms of, comparing like what happens in what you think. Do you think there's some limitations or some, some difficulties that show up in Zoom or these virtual dances? What are your
Absolutely,
ideas?
absolutely, and I think you're nailing it. So I'll just go ahead and run down the line. So the first part is that as far as just like you've got these tiny little squares on the screen, well, this is also assuming that you have a personal device other than a cell phone, like a laptop or a monitor of some sort to be able to broadcast that. And then from a technical issue, it's really optimal if you have, like, for example, a laptop where you're doing the Zoom and you can see everything proper, and then you have the phone for an application such as like Mixer, which is what a lot of the DJs and ecstatic dances use. Because sometimes trying to do both the Mixler and the Zoom through one device can sometimes cause troubles. At least that's been my experience. And with the
let
Zoom
me pause you just for a second because for anyone that actually hasn't even showed up at a Zoom dance yet, there might be people who are kind of interested but they don't know what to expect, and we haven't even really described it except to say there's problems with it, which is not a great way to start. They can be really fun, let me say that. But because of the sort of the limitations within Zoom and the sound qualities and so forth, a lot of hosts have switched to running the music through Mixler, which is a separate application. So you actually need to have another window or, like you say, two devices so that you can function with both of them. So it's a fix on Zoom, and it's also another challenge to get that to work for you. And you don't want to run them both at the same time, but that's getting into too much granular detail at this moment. Right.
Yeah, but
right.
I would say I would say it's just it's helpful if you've got a nominal understanding of how Zoom works and some of the pitfalls, and maybe that's something we can talk about another time. But there's little tips and tricks here that could really, and that's something that's your department. You're the Zoom subject matter expert, so I don't want to take on that conversation role, except to field questions. But so that's the first part. Second part I want to touch on in specific with Pam's Silly Delic on Monday nights, which we both highly recommend.
Yes,
if you want to just set ecstatic dance aside and just come and check this out, it's a wide range of people, anywhere from people I'm going to guess probably in their early 20s to people in their late 70s and older.
And all over the country too.
And all over the country.
That's an advantage, by the way. I maybe could have started with the advantages instead of but go ahead.
We'll start with the disadvantage, and then we kind of work it up.
That's right.
The build up. It's kind of like a movie where it's like, oh no, it's so sad, and the hero's about to like go down, and all of a sudden,
and on the high note.
But specific to Pam's dance and kind of the rundown, and that's the other reason I recommend it too, is she does a really good rundown. She does have a fair amount of like guidelines, but I think that they're very helpful, and she's awesome about it because she's like, this is my dance, these are basically my rules, but she knows, she's very good at knowing what works, and people glom to that, and her turnouts are epic. So
she has kept her turnout really high, even while other dances have sort of diminished. And I think she's got her own personality is, of course, a huge plus, but she's also, she has how she sets it up and what she's inviting. She's clear about it. She's fun. She's what she's inviting in terms of how she shows up, and she names it. She tells people, and she leads also. She leads people into having the experience that she's asking them to have. And so I think that's awesome sauce.
Yeah,
yay,
that's
Pam.
a good one to step into. If you want to step into that one's cool, because we start off warming up like with a little dance in the beginning, just kind of people getting in and greeting, kind of like a regular dance. And then she has her little Silly Delic part, which is like a 15-minute, either you're learning, and everything's theme based. So like one time it was booty shakes, so we're learning how to do twerk. Another time was Halloween, so everybody was doing costumes, and we're learning how to do the monster mash. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be that 15-minute ahead of time
Yeah.
to do whatever, and then she puts on the music
Yeah.
and plays
She
it.
does the social lube at the beginning, the social icebreaker stuff, and really guides people. And it's really how you connect on Zoom. So it's not just a thing, it's something you can use through the dance, what
Mm-hmm.
she's teaching. And then the beautiful thing at the end too is, she ends it and then she has people speaking and talking about their experience, and then she lets people make announcements about what they're offering, which is awesome. She puts out a list of all these other events. She's
Mm-hmm.
such a service to the community. And then she does an after party. She just has the whole ball of wax. You cannot miss with Pam, especially
Yes,
if you like
yes.
playfulness and silliness. She has
Oh
nailed it.
man,
She has
yes, she
nailed it.
has.
Yeah, yeah.
And she is just leveling up on the hula hooping right now. Is unbelievable. I don't know if
Oh,
you've seen any of it. Yeah, four hula
she's,
hoops at once. Just
oh, she's
lifting a leg out
amazing.
of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like a master hooper. That's kind of one of her,
Hmm.
that was a deep thing she came in with. That was a master skill she stepped in with. So, yeah.
So anyway, so getting back to
Yeah.
some of the disadvantages is that when she clarifies about being close up to the screen, like normally if she's going to turn the camera off, it's typically if you're gone for more than one or two songs, and she'll turn it off and then turn it back on when you come back in. But at least from what I have learned for what she talked about getting close up at the camera, and this is
Yeah.
something that I had to learn as a guy, is that it can be kind of intimidating for a man to be close up to the screen like this. And everybody forgive me,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be scary. Boom.
No, but yeah, it's stocky. It feels stocky a little bit,
Yeah.
like voyeur, stocky, like whoa, and if you're seeing somebody or several somebodies in an event do that, it might be intimidating. You might end up turning off your camera so they cannot see you. That's the only way you can really deal with that. If you're
Yeah.
think you're being watched that way, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
and I had no idea. That's the thing. Like the reason I was doing this is because I wear my
Mhm.
contacts at dance, and it's like my eyes are shitty for being able to see the chat. And I'm trying to do the chat like this and
Yeah.
look at the window. But then the interesting thing is her suggestion, I thought was way more creepy, where instead of doing that, go above the screen like this, and then just sit there like that and type away and do everything, which I don't know. This seems a little bit more than
I did
that.
not
But
hear that suggestion, so
oh
I would
yeah.
I
Yeah.
would no, I mean, I'm
She
just
can call me
saying
out on that if she listens to
neither
this,
one
but
sounds really great to me. And
yeah.
I'll just name again, especially if you haven't been playing with Zoom, you not only have this little video screen, but you also have this feature called the chat. So you can actually have a running, chat window open where you type stuff in, and it can be a great advantage, to be social. Hey, good to see you, blah, blah. You can be sort of conversational on a Zoom chat, and which is looked down upon in a regular ecstatic dance. There is no conversational, but it does help people kind of meet each other, and they are all over the world often in these venues, because you can be anywhere and just jump on. You don't have to travel. And yeah, and it's also a way, I won't go into detail, but you can actually say to someone, "Hey, do you want a pin?" And then both people make their screen. You can actually find connections that way by asking for someone to make you look big on their screen, and you make them look big on your screen, and then you have an acknowledged relational piece going on. So, but the chat also requires you get up close. If you're for me too, glasses, and there we are. And so there's another layer added to the dance. And I mean, some hosts have turned the chat off. There's different ways to deal with that if you're going to do a dance, and how you manage that. So again, she probably never thought of that. And then these people are way up into the screen, and she's like, wait, that doesn't look like what I want to have happening in my dance. So here's a suggestion how to deal with it. And she's figuring it out, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you never did anything wrong. And, it's just someone saying we'd prefer something different than how you're managing to get yourself on the chat and what it looks like in your screen when you're doing that.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think you're really hitting the nail on the head too. It's not that you should never like come to dance and be like, oh, am I going to do something wrong? Am I going to get in trouble or anything like that? Just try your best to use sound judgment. think before you speak or act. And, I mean, for me, and coming into a new situation, it's very helpful to do what I call just listen and learn, and kind of just sit in and observe. But at the end of the day, if you mess something up or cross over a guideline or something like that, it's not like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's, somebody will let you know. Maybe it'll be an organizer, maybe it'll be somebody else, or you'll learn it on your own, like I did with the close-up thing that I had no idea. So just
no big deal.
Just show up. Yeah.
So in just a minute or two, I think I want to say what I think some of the advantages of a virtual dance, and you'll have many more. So I'm going to list mine kind of quickly, I think, and then I'm sure you'll have more. So one is it does eliminate the need to travel. All right, you can go to any dance anywhere on your screen. And of course that eliminates the road trip, folks, which is one thing I really love, but that's enough said there. You can dance in the comfort of your own home. You go like you're there. You use like all your comforts are around. You don't have to truck them anywhere. You can take breaks. You can leave and enter at any time you want. You can turn the screen on and off, right? That's pretty awesome. And one thing I hadn't really thought about until I had people tell me this, though, that some people it's a lot safer because they really don't want people coming up close and touching them. And so they can have this safety of knowing that they're safe and they can engage, and yet no one can really come past sort of an invisible boundary that on a live dance floor, people can just walk right through it. So that is a really cool advantage. I just thought of one more. If you're partially abled in some way, you can dance in your chair, you can lay down, you can dance with whatever you've got that you can bring to the screen. And let's see. And there is a way too that you can actually, sometimes it's difficult on the live dance floor to get a partner, to find somebody to say yes, because you have to learn those skills. But on Zoom, you can actually, if it's open and available in the dance you're in, you can go into the chat and you can pick someone and you can say, hey, Chris, can I pin you? Do you want to pin me? And you can actually, with words, make that connection, and say, okay, we're going to do this. And you're not confused about whether it's happening or not. They've said yes, you've asked, or they've asked you and you've said yes. So those are my right off the top sort of advantages.
And people want to. That's the thing. People want to pin and be pinned.
Yeah. People want attention. They want to give attention. That's just,
totally.
Awesome.
I'm only going to bring up one.
Okay.
You can travel the world. You can travel the world. When COVID first hit and I had a little break from work in April, I just went to town, and within a very short period of time, I hit at least 30 unique dances in about 13 different countries. And you get to look and people are opening up their houses, their bedrooms, their kitchens, their families, their grandmothers coming on screens, their friends coming on screens, all of that stuff. And
wow.
And we're making friends around the world and connecting with these people and experiencing what is dance like. And I'm just going to say dance.
Yeah.
What is dance like in Amsterdam?
Yeah.
What is it like in Moscow? What is it like in Tel Aviv? And you make these connections, and for somebody like me,
you did it, right?
Yeah,
this is
that's what I'm saying.
Did.
Up to this point, I think I've hit about 40 different dances in 15 countries.
So you're virtually, culturally traveling the world in this way. Yeah.
And making friends
and
who will make for awesome hosts and the hookup for the party when I get to their country, and possibly even couch surf. It makes traveling the world more affordable. And they want you to come. It's like, wow, you're coming to my country, to come see me and to come see, let me show you this. Have you seen this? Well, no, because I'm in here, but all those exciting things. That was me just being snarky with myself.
Yeah, no, it was fine. And what I thought was, and so for, what better picture do you get of someone when they're in their body expressing? You can see a person much more than you would text or a photo or a phone call or a resume. You are, we see your energy this way, and we can say, yeah, I want that guy visiting me on my couch when he gets here. Bingo.
Yeah, that would be the one. That's the only one I want to say. It's just a flavor of the world. Just I could just go on for days on that one, but
I'm going to have you
it's
create a
pretty awesome.
document that says like all the countries and all the people, your own little, here's
I
what's
can.
possible. I bet you can. I know you can. That's homework.
All
Should you
right.
decide to accept it. All right.
Exactly.
So that's our rundown for that. I think that was pretty thorough and fun and engaging. I enjoyed that. And I want to really save a little time for you because, as you might have noticed, you writers, I do tend to take a little more space in the talking zone than Chris. I've had a few complaints about this, where more like requests to give more time to Chris. So this is Chris's complete moment now. One of them, he's going to get two in this podcast. First one is, tell us about your trip, your road trip.
Yeah. So road trip to Philly is it's pretty awesome. I got a close friend down here, that I hadn't seen in a while, and he'd been kind of like out of contact, and he came back into contact, and it was just really critical for me to get down here as soon as possible once he was willing and available for company. So that was a big part of it, but also twofold because Gabriel, has wrapped up Saturdays and is getting ready to fly off to Hawaii. But on Sunday, he was spinning at Venice Beach as part of Ecstatic Dance Los Angeles. And so on Sunday, me and a friend of mine who had never been to a dance before went down to Venice Beach, and you got to buy tickets ahead of time. It'll sell out. So you want to make sure you do that, especially on the Sunday one. The other days, I'm not as sure about. And I think it sells out at about 50 people. Don't quote me on that, but I was hearing that number kind of go around. It was a huge turnout. And it was silent disco and really high-end headsets. You could take them all the way to the bathroom, and they had a quarter mile range. And what I found is that even though the DJ setup was on the berm of the sand as it goes down to the ocean, like once the music started, everybody flocked down to the ocean, kicking in the waves and going all the way down. So there was plenty of space for people to really spread out and kind of have that, proper social distance within their, safety parameters.
Wow.
And oh yeah, Gabriel killed it. Yeah,
Oh,
everybody.
man.
Oh man, my friend came up at one point and I could tell it's just giving me goosebumps thinking about it, and just gave me a big, just kind of like,
Oh, thank you,
high
thank you,
five.
thank you,
Yeah,
thank
thank you,
you,
man.
dude. I
Thank
didn't
you.
know. I didn't know. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh.
and as far as like running through guidelines, if you want like a really good example of like well presented and eloquently spoken guidelines, Robin Parrish is the co-organizer, co-founder, one of the two, anyway, of Ecstatic Dance Los Angeles. And he was hosting the virtual ones. I don't know if they're still continuing to do them with this weather, but anyway, he gives a rundown of the guidelines in the beginning, and every time seems kind of like new and dynamic, and just he has the way with words and the message that he emphasized that is just so beautiful and so smooth. It's almost like just listening to a story be told. So,
nice.
so I love hearing.
Yeah.
But
So very
anyway,
digestible. Doesn't feel like an imposing, just like
yeah,
an
yeah.
invitation. Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be an advantage of a virtual dance, is if you can't get to the LA dance on Venice Beach, then get to the dance when they have it virtually. And I'll try to stay on top of that so I can announce it. But I think if you're interested in hearing like a really good kind of run through, check him out. He's in his opening invocation's pretty. There were the goosebumps again. His opening invocation is he just nails it every time. Nothing but that.
Thank you. Wow, that was
Yeah.
that was really good to hear. I'm looking forward to checking that out, and just letting you know also we can create some documents so people can find these links easily. So it doesn't, so ongoingly through this podcast, people will figure out a route so people can find what they need once you talk about these different dances.
Yeah. You're really good on coaching me on that too, because I kind of need to lean on you a little bit to make sure I stay on top of that, because I do want to stay committed to that. So I definitely appreciate your help with that, because
you're welcome. I've seen that.
Get better at it.
For the writers, I've seen since I met you, Chris, that you are really passionate about spreading, the news of ecstatic dance, the excitement, the fun, and letting people know as well, as well as really promoting the people that are running these dances. That seems to always been consistently your thing. So let's do it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's actually an excellent segue to the weekly whiteboard write down of the week. So I don't
Ooh,
know,
okay.
something like that. I've been trying to think of different names. I love alliteration, but that one kind of was like a little weak. But like the weekend whiteboard weekend rundown or whatever.
The
Anyway, I want to
whiteboard
leave.
whitewash, come down. Yeah, we'll come up with it.
So if
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
thinks of stuff, anybody thinks of a nice little sort of like,
Yeah, put that in
snazzy
the
thing,
comment
yeah,
if you've
put that
got
in
a
there,
little like
please.
a little line for what these things that are going to be. By the way, weekly now this is a section that we're adding to the podcast. So it's going to be an ongoing place to get informed about a new dance or the one you really like, or either virtual or in person in the Bay Area primarily, but who knows where Chris is going to take us. He's been all over the world. So
Yeah, I got another place too.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna announce it now, but
yeah.
should be pretty cool.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go for it, and don't worry about like jamming down notes or anything. I'm gonna make sure everybody gets the details here, but I'm actually gonna start with Thursday night. I discovered UCLA has the Center for the Art of Performance, and they have some incredible performers that come through there. And I've already seen one. It's all virtual. The technology and the sound is amazing. So if you got good speakers and a good visual setup, you're going to be in for a real treat. This coming Thursday, I believe they're out of the Ukraine. It's a band called Daka Baraka, and it's just four of them, three women and one guy. And I don't want to take up too much time with them. I saw them at SF Jazz, and I've heard them in ecstatic dance music sets before. They have a very distinct sound and a very distinct visual look. So if you're up for it, and it's donation based only, check them out. And that's kind
Okay,
of like, if you think about my buddy who gave me the high five on the beach, like, yeah, thank you.
the best.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least one person, or maybe only one person, that's going to kind of like give me a virtual high five in their mind for introducing them to Daka Baraka.
Daka Brock. And just say slowly now for everyone
Mhm.
who's watching and may want to pick this up on Thursday, like what's the name of, if they would Google it to find this performance? Do,
Yep.
do you have that? Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be the UCLA CAP, CAP, and that stands for Center for the Art of Performance.
Okay.
UCLA CAP. And there's actually a
Perfect.
website. Yeah, there's a website, but it's just look up UCLA CAP, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it'll
We
pop right
have
up.
Google. It'll come up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you're not available on Thursday, I think they have it available for recording all the way through Sunday.
Oh, okay. So you can play it. If you miss the live one, you can, yeah, nice.
Yeah. Okay, and then Saturday, with Saturday no longer being at Hellman Hollow, it looks like the new Saturday is called Ecstatic, put on by the Church of Dance. I'm just kind of learning this new, like as of a day ago. So that's also from 1 to 3 p.m. I didn't get a chance to check in with Jesse to see if he's still going to be doing an after party, but if I were to guess, I would say the answer is yes.
And just for our listeners, this Ecstatic dance now is in Golden Gate Park. It happens on Saturdays. It goes from like 1 to 3. People come in and it's a silent disco, right? Still. So that's an event that's been going for a while. Was run by Gabriel Francisco, and now it seems like it's maybe morphing in this other places hosting it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And we'll put links to that in the description of this podcast. And yeah,
right. And I got to figure out if you got to bring in your headphones or not. I got to figure that part out, whether or not you need to bring your own headphones, or they may play it audibly because they've got the technology for it. So
I haven't been there, so I misspoke. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then on Sunday, oh no, I'm sorry, God, I almost missed the main event. Saturday night up in Sutro Heights.
Oh yeah, the big one.
Sprung on Spring. I don't know if tickets are still available, but if they are, this is an official silent disco. 3 channels, headlining with Ava Liepen-Ligris. It is just going to be an epic time, and that's from 5 to 8 p.m. That is a ticketed event, so you'll want to make sure that you pick up a ticket for that if they're not sold out.
And that was really fun. Chris told us about the last time he did that event. I don't remember which podcast number it was in, but wow, that sounds was awesome, like life-changing for you. So
it was. It really was. Yeah. Get ready for an incredible sunset. It's just gonna.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, this is where I wouldn't mind you filling in. I mean, where I'd like your help filling in is Dance the Change. Yeah, because you're a little bit more.
I'll talk about that. Dance the Change is is the creation of Boogie Meister is his DJ name. Adrian, I'm not sure his last name. Adrian is his real first name. And he's been hosting Dance the Change, which is a fundraiser as well as a silent disco. He provides, the headsets and you show up where he's going to be. And then there's 2 DJs. He's been hosting that or holding that at Snow Park, which is a little edge park right next to Lake Merritt on Saturdays, but starting this weekend, he's shifting it to Sunday. So it'll be Sunday 1 to 4 ongoing. And sometimes they run past 4 o'clock. And it's a beautiful park, sunny, lovely, and it's been well attended. So that's a good one to catch if you're Oakland or East Bay resident. Yeah, easy drive. Yeah.
And then, and then just 2 more. On Sunday, we have the Oakland Virtual Dance. This is a regular recurring thing that's hosted by Shannon Sahaja. And the treat about this is that it starts at 9:30 with a 45-minute of yoga session led by Shannon, which if you've never had a yoga session with Shannon at least one time in your life, you got to get in on that. And then the DJ, I don't think I've seen before. His name is Technico, but he is a local. He, I think, is, from what I understand, is originally from the South Bay, but has kind of made his journeys and travels that ultimately have led him here to the San Francisco Bay Area, I believe.
Nice.
So anyway,
nice.
yeah. So and he comes on at 10:30, and it's an hour-and-a-half set, and that one will be on the Mixler application.
And Shannon holds a lovely space. She really does. I really like her energy. She opens with intentions, and it's a very inclusive space, very safe. She has such a sweet heart. I really like the way she holds that. That came from Ecstatic Dance Sunday morning at Sweet's Ballroom, the live dance. And she's living in Hawaii now and hosting it. She has to get up 3 hours earlier to do that.
Yeah.
It starts at 9:30. She's up at the crack of what. So lovely, lovely. I highly recommend that. So that's what do we call that? That's called Ecstatic Dance Oakland Sunday. Do you know? We'll put it in the
in the chat. Yeah.
That's a virtual, that's a screen online dance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then last but not least, there's a group called The Latest Craze, and it's led by Joshua Skorkin, which if you were ever a regular on Sunday mornings at Sweet's Ballroom or Wednesday nights, I'm pretty sure you're going to recognize the guy, if not by how he looks, but by how he dances. I love the guy. But anyway,
Josh.
He and a friend of his actually do a monthly thing, and I believe it's not even donation based. I believe it's just free, but don't quote me on that. I will follow up. But basically they pick different spots, and I think mostly in the East Bay, and they'll just pick a spot, set up a speaker, and just play the music and start dancing. So it's kind of evolved from that now, and now they've got quite a bit of a following, but it's still kind of a little bit word of mouth is what it is. But I want people to think about this one, just because of the way he's like Pam, just the way that he shows up with this positivity and his leadership and his just like teeming with happiness. It's just like, oh God. Yeah. But anyway, because of Earth Day, the theme is Happy Birthday, and it's happy and then lowercase b and then uppercase E for Happy Birthday. And it's going to be in Pine Knoll Park.
Okay.
I don't know if that's Oakland. I didn't do.
I'm not totally sure. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm going to guess it's probably in that.
All right. And what time does that start?
That's from 5 to 8 p.m.
Okay. Pine Knoll Park, 5 o'clock on Sunday. Outside dance. Josh leading it. Don't miss it. Hopefully there won't be a flood of 3,000 people. But maybe by next year there will be. Okay, Josh, get ready.
Bring it. Yeah.
Get ready.
And that's it. Yeah.
Well, so that's our trip. That's our road trip. My God, we did it here. I know.
We're already here.
Just zoomed through.
Jeez.
Chink, chink, chink. Yeah. And still smiling and happy. I feel excited. About having this last section especially be a regular part of our podcast and our road trip now. And so if you have suggestions, you have comments, you have ideas, you have questions, put those into the comments section below the podcast. And we do check those, and we do gather inspiration and ideas for the podcast, for the content. So you will get heard. And that's how, at this point, we're trying to be interactive with our fans and our listeners and our writers. Like the podcast, subscribe to the channel and the podcast, show up again next week. And there's 11 other podcasts you can listen to if you want to binge out on them, and keep dancing. Dance for life. Right, Chris? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
On dancing.
To be continued. And hey, wow.
I'm ready for the weekend. Who else is
Oh.
ready for the weekend? Oh, Kara's just
This kind of reminds me of, this is what Pam kind of does, you know? It's like
yeah.
very loose, sort of echoey, connected movement into the space. And then, how about, okay, I'm rushing us. Yeah, the lock. What is your comment for this? Locked and ready?
Oh, yeah. Locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded. As we
Nice.
sign off on another fantastic road trip to Fairfax. All right. Ciao for now.